When the CEO fired me after 25 years, he said, "We don't need you anymore, Martin." But he didn't know that for the past 3 years I had been recording all of his secret meetings. Martin Coleman, 52 years old, had worked as the executive board secretary at Apex Dynamics Corporation. For 25 years he had attended the company's highest level meetings, heard every secret, and seen every document. He was known as CEO Richard Davidson's right hand, until that Monday morning. "Martin, could you come to my office?" Davidson's voice carried its usual authority. Human Resources Director Sarah Mitchell was already waiting there. Martin understood the situation immediately. 25 years of experience told him what this kind of meeting meant. Davidson stood behind his desk, never bothering to sit down. "Martin, the company is entering a new phase. We need a younger team that's more tech-savvy. We don't need you anymore." Martin nodded calmly. "I understand, Mr. Davidson. Sarah will explain the severance package. 3 months' salary plus your accrued vacation time." Martin stood up and extended his hand. "Thank you. I'll clear out my desk this evening." Davidson seemed surprised. Perhaps he had expected tears, begging, or an outburst of anger. Martin's calm reaction unsettled him. When he returned to his office, Martin pulled the small digital recorder from his bag, the device he had carried with him every day for 3 years, the one no one knew existed. He pressed play and listened to yesterday's conversation between Davidson and lawyer Miller. "How are we going to launder this bribe money from the Korean firm, Richard?" Miller's voice came through the device. "We'll show it as consulting fees. Martin never questions these documents anyway. He's been preparing everything for 25 years. Martin turned off the device. He had 47 different recorded conversations in his bag, all about illegal deals, tax evasion, bribes and fraud. What Davidson didn't know was that Martin had started recording every meeting, every phone conversation, 3 years ago. That night at home, as Martin listened to the recordings, he remembered the past. He had joined Apex Dynamics in 1990. Back then it was a small tech company with only 50 employees. Davidson was just a mid-level manager. Martin had started as his secretary and had watched him rise through the ranks over the years. In the early years, Davidson was an honest man, respectful to his employees, honest with his customers. But as the company grew, money and power had changed him. Martin was the first to notice this change. He had watched small lies and tricks gradually turn into major fraud. 3 years ago, Martin had accidentally overheard one of Davidson's phone conversations. He was talking about illegal payments from a South Korean firm. That day on his way home, Martin had bought a small recording device. "Just to protect myself," he had thought. The first recording was accidental, a meeting where Davidson and lawyer Miller were making tax evasion plans. Martin had forgotten the device in his bag, and the record button had accidentally stayed on. When he listened to the recording that night, he realized things were much worse than he had imagined. Over the next 3 years, he had systematically recorded every meeting. Davidson's trust in him made his job easier. "Martin, you're part of the family," Davidson would say, but family members wouldn't fire each other for such behavior. The next morning, Martin entered his office for the last time. He began gathering his personal belongings from his desk. Davidson stopped as he passed by. "Martin, I hope you don't take this personally. This decision was purely economic." Martin looked at him. "Of course, Mr. Davidson. If this is what 25 years of service is worth, I accept it." That afternoon, Martin was in lawyer Daniel Cooper's office. Cooper was a corporate law specialist and an honest attorney. He was Martin's old-school friend. "Martin, these recordings contain very serious accusations," Cooper said while reviewing the files. "Federal tax evasion, international bribery, financial fraud. Davidson could get at least 15 years in prison. I just want justice to be served, Daniel. I was an honest employee for 25 years. They fired me because I was old." Cooper listened to the recordings again. "How did you obtain these documents?" Martin explained the situation. The recordings that started accidentally, the systematic collection process that developed over time, Davidson's trust in him. "Okay, Martin, we have 2 options. Either we give these recordings to the federal prosecutor, or we meet with Davidson directly. What do you want?" Martin thought about it. He didn't want to see Davidson in prison. He just wanted the respect and compensation he deserved. "Let's talk to him first, Daniel. If we can find a fair solution, we won't need to go to the federal prosecutor." The next day, Cooper called Davidson. "Mr. Davidson, I'm calling on behalf of my client Martin Coleman. We have important matters to discuss." Davidson's voice came through the phone with tension. About what? Let's meet face to face, tomorrow at 2 p.m. in my office. Davidson came to the meeting with his lawyer, Miller. Martin and Cooper sat across from them. The digital recorder sat on the table. What is this? Davidson asked. Cooper turned on the device. Davidson's own voice filled the room. How are we going to launder this bribe money from the Korean firm? Davidson's face went completely white. Miller tried to examine the recording device. Where did this recording come from? Miller asked. It's just one of 47 recordings Martin has collected over 3 years, Cooper said calmly. Actually, he can, Cooper said. As a participant in the meetings, he had the right to record the conversations. And besides, you've already fired him. Martin spoke for the first time. I worked for you for 25 years, Mr. Davidson. I kept all your secrets, hid all your lies, and you fired me saying, we don't need you anymore. Davidson sat down, covering his face with his hands. What do you want, Martin? Cooper placed an envelope on the table. The demands are in here. First option. Martin returns to his job, 5-year retirement guarantee, $500,000 compensation, and company shares. Second option. These recordings go to the federal prosecutor. Miller took the envelope and read the contents. He whispered something to Davidson. This is too much, Davidson said. Martin stood up. Too much for 25 years of honest service, Mr. Davidson, or for the crimes I've been hiding for 3 years. I want a week, Davidson said. You have 24 hours, Cooper said. You need to decide by 6 p.m. tomorrow. The next day, Martin was waiting at home. When the phone rang, it was Cooper. Martin, they accepted. But there's a change. Instead of returning to work, they're offering $750,000 compensation and a 2-year consulting contract. Martin thought about it. Actually, he didn't want to continue working with Davidson. I accept, Daniel. That evening Davidson called. His voice was tired and defeated. Martin, you didn't have to take it this far. This is what 25 years of loyalty was worth, Mr. Davidson. You just chose not to see it. Will you destroy the recordings? Martin remained silent. The recordings are safe in Daniel's vault. They'll stay there as long as you don't violate the agreement. 6 months later, Martin was having tea in the garden of his new home. The consulting fee from Davidson was being deposited into his account regularly every month. He had bought himself a small but comfortable house. The phone rang. An unknown number. Mr. Coleman, this is FBI agent Patricia Wells. We're conducting an investigation into Apex Dynamics. Could we meet with you? Martin was surprised. About what? Regarding allegations of international bribery and money laundering. We're interviewing former employees. Martin called Cooper. Daniel, the FBI called. What should I do? I'm coming now, Martin. Don't say anything. When Cooper arrived, he explained the situation to Martin. Someone reported Apex Dynamics to the FBI. Most likely one of Davidson's partners talked. Will they want my recordings? Most likely yes. But this doesn't violate your agreement. It actually strengthens it. The next day, FBI agents came to Martin's house. Agent Wells and her partner, Agent Rodriguez, were polite but determined. Mr. Coleman, we'd like information about your working history with Davidson. Following Cooper's advice, Martin gave general information. He didn't mention the recordings, but described Davidson's behavioral changes in recent years. Did you notice any suspicious activity? Wells asked. Martin looked at Cooper. Cooper nodded. Actually, Martin said slowly, I had recorded some conversations, just for my own safety. The agent's eyes lit up. Could we review these recordings? Cooper intervened. My client is ready to cooperate, but we want an immunity agreement. 2 weeks later, Martin was giving testimony at the federal prosecutor's office. The 47 recordings were in the FBI's hands. Davidson and 5 partners had been arrested. Prosecutor Jennifer Stone had listened to the recordings. Mr. Coleman, thanks to these recordings, we've uncovered a massive fraud network. Not just Apex Dynamics, but 6 different companies were involved in this operation. What happens now? Martin asked. Davidson will get at least 20 years. You could also be placed in the Federal Witness Protection Program. Martin declined this offer. I'm not afraid. I did the right thing. The trial lasted 8 months. Martin was the key witness. During hearings, every recording was played one by one. Davidson's lawyers tried to discredit Martin, but the recordings were too clear. His partners received sentences ranging from 12 to 18 years. The company went bankrupt. Martin's story received wide coverage in the media. Headlines like 25-year secretary exposes massive fraud appeared in newspapers. A year later, Martin received a job offer from a major law firm. He would work in the corporate investigation department. The salary was 3 times his previous one. Mr. Coleman, said the firm partner, Your experience is very valuable. You can provide consulting on corporate fraud cases." Martin accepted. His new life was more meaningful. 2 years later, a letter came from Davidson in prison. "Martin, guess what I miss most in prison? An honest secretary. I trusted you for 25 years, and you remained loyal to me. In the end, we both got what we deserved." After reading the letter, Martin threw it in the trash. The past was in the past. Today, Martin is 55 years old, a successful corporate investigation specialist. An FBI appreciation plaque hangs on his home wall. Below it, in a small frame, is an old photo taken with Davidson, as a reminder, because Martin had learned that loyalty should be mutual, and sometimes the greatest power comes from listening quietly. While everyone else was talking, he was recording. While everyone else trusted him, he was protecting himself. And in the end, he had received the reward for 25 years of loyalty. Not the way Davidson thought, but the way he wanted. The most important lesson Martin taught was this: a secretary is not just someone who writes. Sometimes he's the one who listens, records and speaks when the time comes. Davidson would spend 22 years in prison thinking every day about how valuable Martin had been, but it was already too late. Because Martin was no longer just a secretary. He was the silent hero of justice.